Hello, this is Molly Reamer with 30 Days of Goddess and Bridget's Grove with this month's Goddess Guidance Club video. Our theme for this month is Sovereign, and the goddess we are honoring is the Morrigan. So the Morrigan is a Celtic goddess of battle and war. She is multifaceted and complex. She's also sometimes viewed as a complete triple goddess of life itself, sometimes experienced or portrayed as three sisters. Known as the Great Queen, hence the connection to our sovereign theme, she's associated with crows and ravens, with deep transformations, and with ferocity and self-defense. She's also associated with prophecy and shape-shifting, and she may appear in many forms with many lessons to teach. So the Morrigan has been part of my life in some way for a long time. Many of you know I have a very strong affinity for crows, and I even wondered in the time of writing Walking with Persephone if it was really the Morrigan who was trying to get my attention during that time period in my life, though I had a really clear connection with Persephone in that way too. But the Morrigan has been a presence. I really recommend the book Priestess of the Morrigan. I'll link to that below. And then the Girl God Books also has a good Morrigan anthology. So if you are a member of the Goddess Magic community on Patreon, you will receive this Morrigan card packet as well as the matching bookmark and our guidebook for the month, and also your snapshot cards for this month, as well as your print-outable sticker set. So the guidebook is full of lots of resources. I've already started adding some things to mine, but there's all kinds of good stuff present here for you. So if you would like to become a member, I do have a couple of special membership offers running in November, so make sure to check those out at patreon.com/goddessmagic. And there's a special code you can enter for a discounted membership, and that is Magic 2024. And so I am raising my tier prices in 2025. So make sure to lock in the lower membership price today using that code. That way you get a discount and you keep that same set tier price into 2025. So it's only, the tier prices are only going to be changed for new members. Existing members keep their existing price. So anyway, back to the Morrigan and back to Sovereign as a theme. This month, I'm also going to be using this Urban Crow Oracle as we do our weekly divination videos. And so I'm going to be using that. Now I'm going to switch camera views so that we can talk a little bit more about the Morrigan. Okay, so sharing a little bit more information about the Morrigan, drawn from this anthology, Naming the Goddess. And there are lots of great Morrigan resources. I've chosen to use this book because it has the little snapshot sort of overview, and I feel like that is helpful for our purposes. And I invite you to dive more deeply into the Morrigan is an intense goddess. She's kind of ferocious. She's kind of fearsome. And you can find various information about her online that will frankly make you quite afraid of engaging with her, because she does have a lot of deep and mysterious and sometimes frightening associations. And so there's lots of good books, there's lots of good resources to explore, but this is just like a quick overview of the Morrigan as a goddess. And like I said, I do really recommend the Priestess of the Morrigan book. It really digs into what it means to work with the Morrigan intensely and as a devotee, like really a intense process of devotion. But the short overview from the Naming the Goddess book is that the Morrigan is part of a trinity of goddesses. Macha and Baive are the other two, of war and death in ancient Ireland. But it's still disputed how those goddesses are truly related. So she's sometimes presented as a triple-faced goddess, sometimes presented as one of these three sisters, sometimes presented as a triple goddess, like whole into herself with these three aspects. Sometimes it's possible they might just be three totally separate goddesses. I do find in a lot of goddess mythology and a lot of goddess stories that people have a tendency, and I've talked about this in past videos, to try to boil the goddesses down and to try to lump them together when possibly they're separate. Likewise, they sometimes try to separate deities out into separate goddesses when really they have like one sentence about one and one sentence about another, and they're like, those must be separate. And maybe they're not. And so in this case, there can be a tendency to sort of lump other goddesses together with the Morrigan, which maybe they're actually individual and distinct, and people have different experiences with that. And it's explored in more depth in the books that I will link to below. But anyway, it is disputed how these goddesses are actually related, or if they are, or if one is more powerful or more distinguished, or if one is an aspect of the other, or whether they really are three sisters, etc., etc. But the Morrigan's name translates from Irish as Great Queen, indicating her sovereignty and queenship as key aspects of her power. She is a goddess who is in control and in charge. And she's associated with magic, she's associated with death, etc., and with lots of other of the deities of Ireland. And I mentioned Persephone before, and I know some people really steer away from mixing pantheons. I find that different goddesses come to us in different forms, and it doesn't mean they're the same goddess. It doesn't mean they're the same goddess, but I do feel like we can reach through their stories and meet those goddesses in our own lives, even if they are from different pantheons. So I feel like we can reach through and touch Inanna in the stories of our own lives. I feel like we can reach through and touch Persephone in the stories of our own lives. I feel like we can reach through and touch the Morrigan in the stories of our own lives, even though those all come from different cultures and different backgrounds. And so anyway, the Morrigan is seen to be able to transform into a crow, to soar over the battlefield. She's associated with crows, very powerfully associated with crows. And let's see what else happened. There's assorted myths and stories about her, but basically, also, there's some debate about whether she was classed as a goddess or considered a goddess. I think so. When we see female figures of power, sometimes historians want to diminish those. Say, oh, they weren't really a goddess. That might have just been a character in the story. Because goddesses are scary to people. Goddesses are threatening to the status quo. Goddesses are threatening to the established religious traditions. And so researchers, historians will steer away sometimes from using the goddess word because it's a scary one. Really, it is. And so anyway, the Morrigan's the warrior. She's a dark one. She's a shapeshifter. She often shows up as the Black Raven Crow. She shapeshifts into all kinds of different things. She's all these names, all these faces, all these different identities, all these different presentations. While she's associated with war, it is clearer that her connection is to the land and to sovereignty. And that's part of her fierceness. She's a defender. She's a protector and a defender of the land and the people. And so that's what kind of leads her. She's not a goddess of war because she loves war so much and wants to destroy everything, but because she's defending and protecting, and she's a sovereign goddess. And she's sometimes been linked to Arthurian legends as Morgana Le Fay, though that is widely disputed as being like a forced association and maybe not true, maybe not grounded in facts, but there's a lot of things we don't know. So sometimes our own lived experiences can teach us something else or add some pieces to the story. And the Morrigan's widely celebrated today. You'll find assorted information about her online. You'll find songs, you'll find rituals, you'll find books, you'll find devotionals. Solitary or single worshipers might find themselves confused by the amount of information available because some of it's very contradictory. But in general, her energy is very important in modern culture. It's something that is real and true and shows up for us today in the modern age, regardless of how much historical, how many historical threads are totally verified in their complete accuracy. There's still a palpable energy of the Morrigan that is experienced and felt and shows up in people's lives. Her worship may look like preparing for battle. It might look like girding one's loins for a fight. Some of those who honor her actually practice sword fighting and battle tactics, but others focus their fierceness on caring for the land and its inhabitants. Still, others may use the energy of the warrior to support them in their everyday battles of their lives, in opponents that may be invisible or internal, and that do not so readily reveal themselves. To step into the shape-shifting of the Morrigan, some might choose to wear a crow feather or a raven feather, and then visual in meditation transform themselves into a crow or a raven to work with her, to shapeshift into her. And we can step into this kind of non-ordinary reality in meditation. I usually prefer to see the goddesses as alive and magic as afoot in my own world. So if I look out the window and I see the crows flying by, to me, that's the Morrigan alive in this world right now, without needing to go into an astral plane or a meditation. But other people find meditative work very powerful in terms of journeying. And we can make offerings to her of wine, whiskey, water, elderberries, blood, preferably your own, crow feathers, hazelnuts, oak, etc. But the Morrigan's this Irish goddess of death, magic, sovereignty, waters, and fertility. She is dark and she is fierce, and she is the one who fights when necessary. She can show her teeth. She can fight if necessary. When you are called to your own personal battles, she can show up to lend you strength and the ability to shift your perspective. So if we look at her as the shapeshifter, we can also see her as a support in shifting our own perspectives and changing our own view. That view can be of the battles we are facing, or it can be of our own sovereignty, our relationship to our own power. So she can lend you strength and ability to shift your perspective if you're not sure of your direction. So she can be called upon for protection, she can be called upon for guidance, and she can be called upon for courage and strength as you face your fears, as you face your challenges, as you move through life with strength. So thank you so much for being here. And again, if you hop on over to patreon.com/goddessmagic, you can explore membership options there. And you can go to 30daysofgoddess.com for the free support materials. So we're going to go ahead and close with the card. If you're a Goddess Magic member, you get this card as one of your benefits. And this is the one I made with my other materials. So your printable one is a little different, but there is a little message, a little card in the back. It is time to gather up what we've created, what we've offered and received, and choose the threads of meaning, the threads of courage, longing, and love. It is time to touch back in with the fibers of desire and to use what we've gathered to keep weaving the stories of our lives. And the word on the back is speak. So may we speak with courage. May we speak our truth. May we speak. Oh, there comes a fly. May we speak with power and inspiration. And the affirmation is, I step into the sacred. So closing today's Goddess Guidance Club with the Morrigan's poem from the card. Listen, I am the great queen. Fate whispers through my feathers and winds through the songs of history. I am she who transforms. I protect life with ferocity, and I walk freely with death. Thanks so much for being here. Keep living your magic. Bye-bye.